a trap, because we're so used to not wanting to feel bad, not wanting to feel like depressed or frustrated or something, is that we developed some sort of escape mechanisms, no, to distract ourselves and to do something to not feel like that. And for me, that's always in a way, the danger, to try to not go into it, to be able to feel something else. And I don't know if that's what you've tried, or if you're able to really go into that, because in the end there's something there, no? If something always repeats and repeats and repeats, there's something that we want to see, that we need to see, no? In a way. How have you dealt with that feelings?
I don't know. I have been spending a lot of time in bed and just kind of feeling it and listening to some music. Yeah, but I don't know if it is that I cannot really feel it in the depth, or I don't know. I don't know.
We can share it together and see what's moving. I felt this low in energy the whole communa. Like everybody's a bit more like,
Okay.
in a way, I feel like everybody's connected and moving together, but also I feel like we're more synchronized in a way that, like for example, yesterday there was a day when we moved a lot of things in the communa.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to move a lot of beds and mattresses and whatever, and it was a bit like we were starting things, and then I felt like everywhere was this energy of, well, maybe later, or maybe not now, maybe tomorrow. I don't really feel like it. Nobody's helping me. It's like we started different things, different places, and I had the feeling that we were all so connected in this energy of being a bit slower, that in the end we somehow did everything, but I felt like it was much more difficult, like much more like much more energy needed to make these things happen. And I know it's also my place where I'm right now. Like I feel like this, at least the last couple of days I felt like that, like a bit lower and everything. And I'm just in the way, what helps me is to really just go there and feel it, and then at some point, when I'm not trying to find anymore what's the mechanism, usually it comes at some point, but only when I not look for it anymore. I don't know if you or maybe anyone else in the public would like to share something about this, either here in the room or maybe at home. Has anyone else felt this low in energy this week, and what have you done? I want to ask, but what have you not done to change it? Zero, yeah. Please go ahead.
See, yes. Yeah, I feel the same. But in a way, I don't struggle with that. I don't like push myself to feel in another way. I simply, and also in that feeling of not struggling is, I leave myself to absorb. I don't know if the word it's absorb, but like to leave it to the creativity to reach me, even in that moment. And yeah, today in the morning I have a very interesting moment when I also I don't struggle with ideas. like I put myself a video, interesting video from a guy that I love from YouTube, and he talked about existentialism and Jean-Paul Sartre and Nietzsche. And when I was listening to him, there is a part of me that want to struggle the ideas that I am receiving, like, but I don't know how. I feel that, well, I don't gonna judge any idea in this moment that can reach me. And in that moment was like, oh, something similar to heaven, because because there was no struggle about what is right, what is wrong, what is what I have to do with this idea that I was receiving, and the like freedom of having to choose a right idea or what is and I link that with this that you're saying. I feel a low energy, and the neurosis start to trying to find a way to change something to reach high energy, or to do something to, I don't know, like to change the reality that I am experiencing. And I am feeling more that I don't want to struggle anymore with that, simply.
Thank you for sharing. For me, what comes to me now is that in the last couple of days we've talked a lot about change with the people in the Kommuna, and I don't know about the programs, but what you just said, Kati, also feel like that nothing's changing. I feel like sometimes we can focus on the things that are not changing, that we kind of, that our mind goes there and stays with those things, and so in the end it seems like nothing is changing, but it's a lie. But it's a lie that we're in that moment, we're so focused on that we stay there. Like I also had the feeling this week that I realized that I saw that there's a pattern that I thought I had transcended, that I'm still living it, and it's like, oh yeah, but nothing's ever changed. I'm still the same, and I feel like I see this in lots of places, like many people saying these things. It's like, it seems like nothing is changing, but what I actually feel is like, it's the opposite. So much is changing that our mind tries to stick to the things that are not changing to stay the same. And I feel like we're coming to that point that Ciro just mentioned, that we're getting to the point of frustration, and we need to get there. From my point of view, we need to get there to really say, I don't want to be there anymore. Like Laura said last week, I want to be free. I think it's that. We need to be in this point of really like seeing all the things that keep us in the prison, so we can actually break out, because we don't know how we are in prison. There's no way in getting out.
Mm-hmm.
What's your prison, Kati?
I guess that I'm kind of dependent of this dream that I'm having, this inner dream. Like when I'm connected to it, I feel good, and I feel like my life has a meaning, and I feel important in some way. And then when I decided, no, I actually don't want to accomplish this dream, then it's like something is breaking away, and suddenly there's this feeling of like emptiness and senselessness and frustration that I'm again at this point again and again and again. And yeah, that I'm kind of depending on this dream. I guess that's a big part of the prison.
So would it be in a way, if, well, my idea, well, it's an idea again, so I don't know if it's true. The idea that comes to me is that that maybe a part of you creates that dream to get away from those feelings of not being important and this feeling of emptiness, and then maybe being in this feeling of emptiness right now will allow you to see the mechanism below there. So that in the sense, like right now it seems like the cause is the dream and you're the effect. But it's a lie. It's the reality in the moment that you believe it. But once you realize that the dream is actually the effect, you can look at the cause, and you are the cause in the end.
Makes sense.
Does anyone else feel connected to this? Like the idea of having, like, the moment when an idea breaks down, when you realize that this dream that you had is not what you wanted anymore. It's like, for me, it's like a part of the reality is basically crashing down. No, it's like something that I used to believe, and suddenly it's not true. It can also, like, we talked about this yesterday or the day before, I don't know, when it comes to, well, basically the lie that we live. In a way, it's a lie that we've been telling ourselves, and that becomes reality in the moment that we live it. Like, when in the moment that you believed into that dream, it was a reality, and now you see that it's not actually a reality, that it was a dream that apparently maybe not anymore is what you wanted, and then at that moment it becomes apparent that it wasn't actually the truth, it was a lie, but in that moment it became your truth. This is what happens, from my experience, oftentimes in relationships. Like when we're with somebody and then suddenly we realize that what we try to sustain was actually the idea of the relationship, and maybe it wasn't there anymore. And all of this somehow could lead back to the fact that we're all afraid of failure. And so then in that moment with the relationship, it would be, I'm trying to sustain it to not fail. And I don't know if that has anything to do with your dream. Maybe the idea was to want to be able to fulfill it, to not feel like you're failing. I don't know. It's just something that I'm making up right now. But to me, it's always about this idea that we're sustaining, and in the end, if we see that it's a lie, something is breaking down.
Yeah. So part of the dream was also like it kind of included the men in my life that I have been loving, and so part of it was to not accept the rejection that they gave me, in a sense, and with this dream making like a plan how they will be part of my future, to not accept the rejection, to not actually feel it. Yeah.
Which means that right now you're confronted with that rejection.
Yeah.
I like the German word for disappointment, which is Enttäuschung. It's like disillusion, basically, in English. It's not the same word, but the meaning is that something that was there, that was an illusion, is not there anymore. So then disappointment becomes something positive. because it's something that makes you see the truth, actually. Which is, in that moment, could be quite a shock because we had an expectation about something, but in the end it's just another glimpse at the truth, basically. Which is a beautiful thing once we realize it, but in the moment it sucks. It really sucks.
Yeah.
Does anyone want to share the lie that they discovered this week? Anyone discovered a lie that they were living, that they have been able to, well, at least see? What do you then do with it? The other question, but at least you've seen it. Zero, what's the lie that you've seen this week?
Well, there are some lies that are persistent, and I continue to see it. And other lies that, like, I know that it was there, but I forget about it. Like, the lie that I don't have anger repressed in myself. Yeah. Or I see it the other day, like triggering by some event in the house of Alberto, that I don't know if I can share it, that experience, because it includes other persons. But it's an experience by two parents have a child, and the child was like wandering from in the house, and like some of my friends here that work there was painting, and he invited the child to paint also, and the child was like playing to paint, and like the father comes and like I don't know how to say when you like was mad about the child painting and covering all over his body in paint, and like, ¿cómo se dice retar? O mandar.
I think we'll be telling off. I'm not sure. It's like telling him that he did something wrong, right?
Yeah.
I don't have the word either.
Yeah, that's right. And the child listen and do all over again like 3 times. And then the father comes and like get really angry and start to beat the child. And that moment, like inside of me, I was not in that place. I was here in the house, but that triggered the how you say some kind of vengeance or seeking of justice or something like that. Trying to yeah, and like he has the freedom to raise his child however he wants, but that also triggers me to feel that I am also free to not have violence in front of me.
From the integration point of view, I feel like we have 2 different ways to look at this situation, and if you want, we can look at both ways just a little bit.
Yeah.
For me, like and that's also for those that are watching, if you're interested, like to understand a bit better the different approaches that we're using. The one side would be the more like psychotherapeutic integration. So we could now look at when have you experienced violence in your childhood? What triggers in you the situation? What does injustice mean for you? And see, like we could go at to find the cause. of what's going on in you. Why do you get triggered, and why do you need to see this now? This is to see, what's moving. And the other way would be more from the part of the conscious integration, to not look at what happened, what is the cause, whatever, and then maybe Philomena can help me. The part that is the conscious integration for me would be looking at the underlying belief, the underlying, like, what is actually written in your script, not necessarily depending on what happened, but more like, what is the script, what idea are you sustaining that makes you feel like this? What have you seen in the last days that has to do with that? What have you comprehended? Do you know what's going on?
Yeah, that also triggered a talk with Katy about the like somehow the, I don't know how you say a person that is trying to get revenge, or the character that seeks revenge and justice. How you
give him a name? I don't know. It's you
okay.
can call him the justice seeker or
A vigilante.
revenger.
Yeah, somehow that is a vigilante. Is a seeker of justice too. Yeah, to be like recognized by bringing justice, or
To be recognized.
yeah, to be recognized, and in the end, in the or I don't know if in the end, but in the deep that I reach, it's like I want to be loved, but that character tries to seek love in this like complex and twisted way, to seek and like a hero mixed with vengeance, with yeah.
In the last couple of weeks, we talked a lot about the way we perceive reality, like what reaches me in a sense, like how do I listen, how do I look, what do I see? And from what comes to me right now is the wish to remember how the moment that I classify something as good or bad, I'm already in the perception, no? So in the moment that I perceive injustice, I'm already judging what's happening.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to look at that perception of injustice. In a way, what we said yesterday in the Temescal, or the time before, is that in the way, once we comprehend that everything happens as it happens without it being good or bad, we can't be mistreated. And the moment that I see everything from a transcendent point of view, which is, a place that we're hoping to get to, I guess, but it's the perception that keeps us in that loop, in a way.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's about right and wrong, and talk about with Katy also. Like in my childhood, I have my mother teaching me really like exact limits from what is right, what is wrong, and in the beginning of my childhood, like 7, I think, it was like I already have like the fear of seeking justice by believing that I am the hero. I am trying to bring in the right over the wrong, and it's like in that moment it began to mutate into the in my teenage years. It mutated not in the superhero, but in something like like a like a like a kind of a detective seeking justice. And the later years change it to like a social justice warrior, something like that. Like trying not to punish someone in a specific, but trying to punish some kind of system of society. Yeah. And it's like mutated over the years.
It's very interesting, and maybe we can ask Laura to go into these things in one of the workshops about the original wounds, because what comes to me is that that's something very common, no? Like this idea that we want to bring justice, that we want to, like, the system is bad, and we kind of rebel against the system. There should be something common in one of the original wounds that brings up this need. And my idea would be something about, like, I don't know, maybe we can exchange ideas, and then we can ask Laura if she wants if she's interested in making a workshop about that next week. Basically for me it's the moment that I don't perceive that I receive what I need or what I deserve. Like, could be lack of love, if I haven't received always the food or what attention that I needed. Like, this idea that what I'm receiving is not enough or it's not the right thing, together with this very clear identification of what's right and what's wrong, you directly have your justice seeker, no? Like, if you know what's right and wrong, and you know it's not just, you know, it's already directly programmed. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder, how can we bring this together, for example, with all these events that are happening right now in the whole world? Like, there are immense movements in the world, for example, with this policeman who has killed this black man. I don't know, do you know about it?
I don't know what exactly happened.
So there was some situation where a policeman put his knee onto the neck of a black man, and he was just keeping it there, and the black man was saying, I can breathe, and the policeman just kept it there until the man was dead. And there's a whole movement about, like, civil rights now, and people are standing up and making protests, and actually for justice, you know, they want justice for this crimes that are happening with the police especially. And I'm wondering, because the way we are talking, we have been, like, what we have been saying now, it sounds to me like, or maybe it's the best to not do anything and to just accept the things as they are, because acting for revenge or justice is like, because there's a belief underneath. But it's like, I don't know, it's so difficult, because the people in the world who are actually acting from exactly this feeling of injustice and who are standing up for their other human beings actually are creating a big change in the world right now. So for me, it's like, I don't know, it's difficult. I'm wondering, how can I bring this concept together with the real life out there, you know?
It's a very interesting point. The way I live it, and I don't know if it's right or wrong, because it's just the way I live it, is not from suppressing a need to express my feeling of right and wrong, so it's about being aware of where it comes from. Like, it's a bit like this idea of at least intending to use the characters in a conscious way, because it could be an important part of your personal development, your personal process, to speak up for yourself, speak up for somebody else because you have always repressed it so far, something like this. Like, I don't know if that's your process, but it's like the moment that I see something happening that's wrong, and I just say I can't do anything because it's just my perception of it. It could be again from a character that doesn't want to do anything. Like for me, it's more about the consciousness in the moment. Like, which part of me is looking at this? Which part of me wants to act? Which part of me doesn't want to act? Which part of me is afraid to do something wrong? And more like from the part of observing and then choosing consciously what to do. And if you consciously choose to go on the streets and make a demonstration, perfect. For me, it's perfect. For me, it's more complicated if somebody does it from the wound without knowing. But even that's perfect. Like if I don't know what's moving, but I know that I have to go on the street, I go on the street. Like it's also about intuition, about seeing what's moving. And for me, it's about the conscious observation of everything. And I don't know how anyone else sees it. If you want to comment on it here or in the at home, but for me, it's from the comprehension of there's no right or wrong. When you feel something, like when I see, well, when you act because you feel like you have to act, I have no judgment over that. And I think whatever you do is perfect, and it's right to do that. Like there's no, you can't fuck it up. Like you can't fail in that sense. That's how I see it. I don't know if anyone else wants to comment on that. And so what's happening in the world, I also see it as like, for me, it's a sign for, and it's my interpretation, obviously, that people are starting to take more responsibility. And there, for me, it's a bit complicated because it could also be from the place of not wanting to take charge myself. So I tell you have to take charge. But it could also be the other way, and depends on from which place you're doing it. But definitely something is moving. This energy is moving towards them. Things are changing. And everybody sees it. So what are we going to do? We are already part of the change. For me, the complication is that I can say this is wrong, but what do I do with that? Like, as long as I just say you are doing it wrong, I'm pointing outwards. And the moment I say this is wrong, and I have an idea to solve it, I am the effect. And then I'm not I'm not like pointing outwards, but I can say, well, this is, it can be a small thing. I can say there's something wrong in this comuna, and the wrong thing is that the pillows are all over the place. You are doing it wrong. Or I can say, hey guys, let's look at the pillows. Look how they are. We have to change them, and this is how we do it, and I start. For me, that's different. It's a way to deal with an injustice. I can say I have the solution to make it just. But if I just say it's wrong, I'm pointing outwards, and I'm not taking charge. And I don't know which demonstrations are happening. I don't know what's going on, if people are proposing solutions or not. But for me, it would be about being part of the cause and not just complaining, basically.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think it was yesterday that I listened to some kind of history from a guy that he have a long friendship, like a child friendship with someone, and both have the dream to go to Australia, and like in his 20s, the friend and his girlfriend invited him to go to Australia and to start like an enterprise. And like this guy was like confused on what decision to make. If he stay, he have his girlfriend in his country. He have his father that was alone, and the only connection that have is him. And on the other hand, he have this dream to go to Australia, and like he was like entering the neurosis of having to make a decision. And he walked into a bench and in the night, and he was like sitting down and seeing the moon, and like a old man reached him and tell him what's wrong, and he talked about his decision. And the old man say, well, a coin have his own intelligence. If you want to flip a coin and make the decision for you, and the guys in his neurosis say, well, yes. And the old man say, well, okay, you go. And to make the story short, he start to live in Australia, and the company goes well. And after years, he met a woman, and fell in love, and have child, and marry. And then the company goes down, and like broke, and start to have fights with his woman, no, his wife. And like he start to feel 20 years later that maybe that was not the right decision, and goes to a bar, drinks something, and regret to leave that decision to the chance of other men decision, and walks to the exact same bench and falls asleep, and an old man touch his shoulder, and he wakes up in his 20s all over again, and he has the feel of a deja vu, and talks about it, and talks about this decision, because he's in the same position to have to make a decision. And the old man say all over again, you want to flip the coin, you want to make the choice for you. And he say yes, and the old man say, well, you stay in. And he start to live with his girlfriend, with his father. He makes friend in the town that he doesn't like, and in a job that he doesn't like also, but he start to live happily with his wife. But years after, he feels that he have money, he have all the comfortable things in the physical world, but he feels empty inside. And broke with his wife, and his father died, and also the same. He walks into a bar, he drinks something, regrets to give this decision, this important decision, to another person, and go to the same bench, look to the same sky, and he falls asleep, and again he feels the touch of this old man, and he wakes up in his 20s, and he talks about these two deja vus of 20 life years of experience of the two decisions. And in that moment, the old man say if he want to give it to the chance to flip the coin, and he says no. And the old man say, why? You are stuck in this moment, trying to make the right decision, why you want to feel stay in this like doubt feeling of not knowing what is the right decision. And he says, because I want to take responsibility about this. I don't want to regret about giving this to another person. I don't know what is right, what is wrong, but I want to put all my efforts in this decision, wherever it make. And there's more about this history, but it is like reaching the point that you never know what is the right decision to make. You never know, but you can't take responsibility about that. Yeah.
Thank you, Ciro.
You're welcome.
We might even be able to take this one step further to the point that you could say you never know which is the right decision, or you could say that any decision is the right decision. If you comprehend that there's no right or wrong. Do we have comments or questions that you would like to share?
Some comments, but this was not about this. It's a. Alexa says, when you were talking about the dream and live the dream, she say that is a picture which describes the dream or the idol that you have. And she also say, yes, accepting is the first stage. Don't use power against somebody.
Thank you, Alexa. Alexa was with me in a retreat in, I think, Cologne 2 or 3 weeks ago. And Alexa's coming to live in Marbella for a month. Hello, Alexa. Thanks for connecting. Nice to know that you're there. Yeah, in a way, I feel like we're done. I don't know. Do you want to share something else? Thank you everyone for connecting, for sharing with us, for being there. Thank you, Kati, for sharing. If you're interested to connect again on Wednesday, we will be also from 11 to 12 in English, and then at night on Wednesday there will be a workshop about original wounds, where we go more into the comprehension of what happened in the early childhood, how does a specific occurrence that you perceive as a trauma later on in life influence you, and how can this be part of your structure. And then from there, from the putting of the consciousness, we're making the next step to open the space for transcending it. That's the idea. But we're also having conferences next week. People can connect to ask their questions about the retreats. And anyway, thank you for being there. Have a beautiful Sunday, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Bye. But we're also having conferences next week. People can connect